So this is Diane with Yesterday's News, and I'm sitting here with Enid and Jackie of Girlschool,
Hey.
the British heavy metal. We just caught your show here at Sweden Rock. Fantastic show. How did you guys feel?
It's great. It's great. Yeah, it was
lovely
kind
audience.
of rushed to get here, and then just straight on. It's
Yeah.
all mental. But as soon as you get on there, it's like, oh wow, an audience. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now, you guys had some problems getting here, some traffic issues and stuff. Does it kind of mess you up when you start your shows? Do you have a normal routine you like to go through? Like
It was a bit rushed, wasn't it? But it was kind of, as soon as you
Yeah.
get on there, you've just got to go.
Well,
with it.
I set the alarm for 2 in the morning.
I was 4
They
o'clock.
stayed in a hotel near the.
But I
near the
travelled the
airport,
whole
but,
of yesterday to get to London.
Yeah,
To actually come here.
8
So it's
hours or something.
8 hours down. So
Yeah.
You just
So we're
flew in.
like,
yeah.
Oh.
and we don't. Well, it depends. Of course, we do interviews, but not always on the day of the gig.
Not before
so
the show,
So
usually.
we're slightly sort of in a alternative space.
I felt like I was speeding before I went on. I was like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Doing my routine, same routine. Throwing some sugar down to get some energy.
Rad. So you guys have been out doing a lot of shows this year. You started out with Soldier Rock, and you've got a schedule of a bunch of festivals.
Yeah.
And you're going to be doing some shows with Rose Tattoo.
Yep.
What's the best part about touring at this point in your career?
I just love doing it. I personally would be on tour the whole of my life if I could.
I think for me is that when we started out 40 years ago, the audiences tended to be a few years younger than us and all guys. And a lot of those audience members still come now and say, you were the first gig I saw 40 years ago or something. And
with the
it's
kids.
fantastic. But we've also got the young generation, as in ever since about 2000,
Yeah.
starting with MySpace and then moving on to YouTube, spread by Facebook generally. It's been, and we've noticed it particularly in Sweden and Finland and maybe in Southern Europe, Spain, Italy, where we've had a whole generation of people in their 20s coming along to gigs, and half of them are female. And so
It's really encouraging to see
yeah.
new blood come in and listen to the older band. It's really good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have people that still like you after 40 years, and we really appreciate that. But it could be, we could just carry on
That we're
doing
still
it for
relevant.
sentimental. Yeah, yeah, it is that we're actually saying something that means something to another generation, and that really makes you feel proud.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you guys have been doing this a long time. What do you think about how music has kind of, this industry and just the way music is coming out today? Like, vinyls really aren't there anymore. It's all streaming, but then the invasion of vinyls is coming back. Do you guys, what do you think about all of that?
It's a different world, isn't it? I mean, the music business now to what it was 20 years ago even, it's completely different. I mean, streaming and, like you say, downloads. Years ago, you would make so much money from CDs, and that was basically your livelihood. Now you can't do that. So more bands are having to tour to actually, make a living from it, I suppose, really. That's the way it is. I mean, bands don't mind doing that, but it's really difficult to keep bands going because a lot of people, they just don't seem to want to carry on doing it because that's just not the way it works anymore.
Yeah, it's a sort of, everything changes, and you can't avoid that. And some things are better and some things aren't. So, for example, certainly 40 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 20, you had to kind of move to London or New York or LA. And you'd have to wait for an A&R guy, and it would be a guy generally, to sign you up. And to some extent, people were treated like kids in the 60s and 70s.
And to a dodgy deal.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. But so you had the chance to kind of to go in a studio with a big producer and
be developed
there'd
as
be
well.
some-
There'd be development where there's none of that now, is there?
No.
I mean, a band is taken on for one single, and if that single fails, that's it. They're finished. Their career. And you see all these kids now coming up, massive by the age of 20, 21, and by 22 their career's finished. It's like, wow. In a lot of cases, the X-Files, the XFactor, X-Factor, and Britain's Got Talent, and I'm sure the same things in America, isn't the same?
We have America's Got Talent.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, the
American
Simon
Idol.
Cowell thing. Yeah, same thing. The same thing in Britain. It's all these new ways of being famous. 50 minutes of fame, as we call it. Really, it's kind of.
But if you look at the bands that are coming through, before, only you'd have loads of bands, but only a few would get signed up. And if somebody didn't get signed up after a few years, then maybe they'd go and get steady jobs or whatever. Whereas now, anybody can play music anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So you do get, for example, you've got a couple of Scandinavian singers breaking through, and it's more egalitarian. It's that DIY attitude going back to punk to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So that's a really great thing. But
YouTube is definitely is an advantage because any band now can put out a single. Things like TuneCore, you know, things like that. You can release a single and just do it yourself. Pledge campaigns. You make money to actually do it yourself. Record your album how you want it, not how a record company wants it. So there's the good side of all this new technology. Put it out yourself on your own label if you want, tour when you want. So that's the good side.
But some of it's become more corporate as well. It's some of the bigger tours. It's much more run like a business, and you know, sometimes one misses the sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of. Not that those things don't exist, but it's not quite the same.
Coming out now.
And now we're going down that path.
Yeah, now we're going down
You guys have been doing this for a long time, and I'm not quite old enough to know that. The crazy generation before me, and the rock and roll generation was just wide open and fun and just free. And it's not as much today, and the kids don't know of the same crazies that you had me for 80s was mine.
It's a lot more business-like now, I think. It's business.
For you in England during that time of the invasion of this new wave of British metal, you're part of that. What was it like for you? I mean, because I know you guys didn't go into this, oh, it's a female thing and we've got to do this, it's female kind of thing. You did it because you love music. But what was it like for you to be involved in that era and to make your stamp and be like,
40 years ago.
Well, it was very much, we didn't originally set out to be female. It's
didn't set out to be female? How did that go wrong then? I didn't set out to be female. Have you got something you want to tell us?
A female band. It is relevant, but I'll go through it quickly. No, it's just that we started playing. Kim and I started a band in '75, and Denise was in various bands and touring and so forth, and Kelly was picking up her guitar and playing, and it was, you were like an alien in those days, and we couldn't get any guys to play in the band with us. They just laughed at us because girls didn't play in bands. It just didn't happen. But in '78, we became Girlschool. We finally got the lineup that was right. We hit the road, and it was a very definite. It was a new band, and yet it was three of us were still the same. So it was, one wouldn't have existed without the other. But that was the start of Girlschool, basically.
So you got a news there. So you got some. Do it. She didn't know they were ladies and they were aliens. All in one sentence. There you go.
But
don't tell anyone.
We had to have a female band because we couldn't get any guys to play with us. But it had changed a bit by '78 to a certain degree. But it was working. Kelly had come on board a few months earlier, and then when Denise joined, she was like, "No, let's start from step one." So it was a continuation and a new start at the same time. But '78, you had all the female punk bands, and they only lasted a year or two, a lot of them. But there were loads and loads of girls and women that picked up guitars. One of my favourite was Vi from Poison Girls, because she was 40 already, and it was like, 40? Shit, she died recently.
Too long to be 40.
But it was, you know, it was a time where it was just play three chords and anyone could do it. And so a lot of girls went, oh, maybe I could do that.
This,
We were already out there doing it, and 3 years earlier it had been, what? You should be a secretary or a nurse. So the world changed a lot in a very short time.
Well, thank you so much, and great show out here today, and thanks for your contribution for women in music, because you guys are badass.
We're not going anywhere.
Catch Girlschool on tour. They are on tour this year.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.